Welcome back to Reading with John. I'm John and I'm going to be reading. I'm going to continue reading my book, Margie and the Wild Dogs Meet the Bible Shredder. We started with the prologue last time. Today we're going to go on chapter 1. We already know some of the characters: Margie, Luke, Pitts, Trevon, Skittles, Mom and Dad, her sisters, her brothers. No, we don't know her sisters and brothers yet. I think they come in chapter 1. But anyway, if you don't have a copy, pick it up on Amazon. If you like it, you could subscribe to the channel, my YouTube channel, and then just follow along until we get to the suspenseful ending. Chapter 1, A Day in the Life of Margie. The church building was only 2 blocks away from Margie's castle. And as a Sunday ritual, she would skip past the House of Holies with a smirk on her face, defying her parents' instructions. Margie figured if church wasn't good enough for Mom and Dad, then it wasn't good enough for her. Although Margie was below normal in her height, she made up for it in her running ability. Lucas lived 5 blocks from the church, and as typical, Margie's stopwatch would read between 20 and 30 seconds after her 5-block sprint. Once again, confirming in her mind that one day she would be an Olympic runner. Margie and Lucas had been friends since kindergarten. And as a tradition, she would hop over Lucas's white picket fence, then make her way up the cobblestone walkway to his front door. "Come on, Lucas! Hurry up!" Margie shouted. After a few knocks to the door and rings to the doorbell, Lucas answered. I'm coming!" He screamed with a protesting attitude. Margie stood laughing in the doorway, watching his broad, husky shoulders droop. With that slight German accent, belt out the words, "I see nothing, I hear nothing, I know nothing," a reference to her favorite television character, Sergeant Schultz, from the television show Hogan's Heroes. Lucas had a special bond with Margie because on December 25th, only 4 months earlier, both had celebrated their 13th birthdays. Sprinting 2 blocks together, they made their way to Trevon's house. Trevon's been part of the same kindergarten class as Margie and Lucas. He spit out his toothpaste and held his eardrums while his mom belted a screeching holler from downstairs. "Margie and Lucas are at the back door." Trevon made a quick zip down the stairs. He grabbed his bag of olives from the breakfast table while animating the bangs from the back door with air punches into the sky. Upon seeing Margie, Trevon immediately asked, "Did she see you? Did she see you?" "No," was her reply as she winked at him, as if both had just pulled off a bank heist. Trevon's aunt was a nun at the church, and on most occasions, Margie walked on the opposite side of the street to avoid the obvious. That another Sunday, they were all skipping church. In disbelief, Lucas needled Trevon. "What the heck happened to your afro?" What was once a lustrous and beautiful afro was now a mini afro. His answer was that his mom had gotten into an argument with her boyfriend and had taken out her frustrations on him. The 3 were now all revved up and hurried to Skittles' house, hoping he would be ready and raring to go. Skittles met up with Margie and Lucas and Trevon while in the 1st grade and quickly attached himself to the small little cluster. The 3 of them were clowning around, leapfrogging over one another, the final 100 feet to Skittles' door. The chanting could be heard blocks away as they shouted up towards his window, "Skittlebum! Skittlebum! Skittlebum!" That chant was a chorus line to the song Margie had made up about Skittles years earlier. He poked his red-headed, freckled face from the bedroom window and gestured for them to catch him. Trevon yelled to Skittles, "Just trust Jesus." Skittles' reply was, "Don't need him. I'm Rocket Man." He jumped out of his second-story window, and as his lanky body flew, it descended like a rock, crashing down on top of Margie, Lucas, and Trevon. As they tried to break his fall, the momentum sent the group flopping and rolling in the grass. They could not speak because they were laughing so hard. But Margie managed to squeal out in a broken tone that she was about to piss her pants. The last comrade to round out the gang would be Jose. But the task would not be an easy one. Jose lived alone in a shanty, or rather a makeshift clubhouse, outside of town in the woods. Jose's family had moved to town from Puerto Rico while Jose was yet a baby. He was quickly inducted into the Wild Dogs' merry band when they found out he called his father Papi. They liked that name so much that they called themselves the Papi Peasants, which only lasted until Jose's life-changing event. Jose was devastated when his parents died in a horrible car accident when he was only 10 years old. From that moment on, the Papi Peasants were referred to as Margie and the Wild Dogs, a reference to Margie's Doberman pinches always pounding her to the ground, and out of respect for Jose. The town's authority tried placing Jose in several different foster homes, but found he would continually run away. The town eventually adopted him as their own, but Jose was unaware of the special pact the town had with him. He would move his shanty from place to place in fear of the town's grown-ups. He believed that he would be sent back to a foster home. The morning fog was still hovering over the woods. It was so low that they couldn't see 5 feet in front of them. As their walk turned into a slow crawl, they locked arms to avoid losing one another. Murky mud was below their feet, and they could hear the trees swaying from the brisk wind above. Shouting out at the top of their lungs, "Jose! Jose!" They could hear faint echoes shouting back the rhythm of their voices. After a 20-minute search, they decided to leave the woods without him. Then they heard that famous Tarzan yodel coming from the treetops. Oh, I was able to do that as a kid. Can't do it no more. Down from the treetops came Jose, flying like a bird, clung to a vine while leaping from branch to branch. "Hey, good morning," he belched from a branch that only seconds later would crack, sending him hurtling to the earth. As it snapped, Jose let out a "Yikes!" With a crashing sound, he landed on a pile of leaves, sending them blasting into the air. His body lay twisted in the leaves as grunts of pain and some Spanish curse words squeaked from his lips. "Wow, that was fun," he shouted while crawling to his knees. "Where's the crowbar?" Margie asked him. His reply was, "It's in the shanty." She quivered. "Let's get it. We are wasting time." Even after walking through the woods and further from town with a cool, windy breeze against their backs, for what seemed like forever, their attention couldn't be deflected. There they stood, like statues, mesmerized, staring up at the 20-foot golden wall. That wall, towering over them, encircled 4 acres of land. And they knew, as adrenaline rushed through their young bodies, that it was going to be a special day. The task at hand was to penetrate the wall and get inside. Lucas carried that huge, bulky crowbar with all its weight from the woods to their current location without a single complaint. Although he liked to shell out orders and play practical jokes, their mission for him, this was serious. This was a serious mission. Lucas's mom was known as the bag lady in town. She would talk to her dog Snoopy as if it were a human being, following that beagle around with a brown paper bag. Onlookers would laugh as she would attempt to catch Snoopy's poop before it hit the ground. His dad was a quiet, non-aggressive alcoholic who was always good to Margie and the wild dogs, shelling out $1 here and $1 there, saying, "Get yourself some ice cream. Make sure it's cherry vanilla. I love cherry vanilla." Lucas was also as stubborn as a mule and vowed he would get them onto the other side of that wall. Beyond the golden wall held the truth, as rumors filled the town with tales of secret kingdoms, space aliens, fantasies of utopia lands, and even a graveyard. These fables and others have been swept through the town for years, as sweat dripped from his forehead. Lucas squeezed the crowbar between the two golden plates at the bottom of the wall, as he promised access into the most forbidden piece of property the town had ever known. He screamed in a loud and clear voice, "Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall!" While the rest of the wild dogs laughed as they watched the frustration bulging from his face with red veins popping out of his forehead. The two plates defiled the jolts, the wallops, and the jerks as Lucas tried to break them apart. Hand it over," said Skittles. Skittles was a quiet teen, but a risk taker. And short-tempered, he was as eager about getting through that wall as any of them. Lucas, with little protest, surrendered the crowbar. Skittles also had an alcoholic dad. His dad drove a forklift in the town's apparel factory. One story Skittles often told about his dad that would bring side-aching laughter to everyone was when Mr. Skittles drove his forklift off the loading dock after having one too many beers. Skittles would mock and imitate his dad with hand gestures and somersaults, pretending to be his dad driving that lift off the dock. His sisters, Mary and Elizabeth, had a singing group called the Skitlets. They would perform cover band melodies in Lou's local diner on Saturday nights, as well as every Friday on a street corner to crowds of enthusiastic onlookers. Skittles took hold of that large crowbar with both hands, using every ounce of strength as he yanked at those plates. His yanking caused a tremendous boom, boom sound. The sound ricocheted off the gigantic golden wall, ripping into the teen's eardrums. As Skittles started to get his hearing back, he chuckled. Then he threw the crowbar onto the ground while laughing with the idea of impeding the metal plates. Trevon screeched, "Wimps, you're a bunch of wimps." Here's where I'm going to stop and continue the story in the next video. So when we pick up, Trevon gets to hold the crowbar, and we will see what he does with the crowbar. Meanwhile, if you're enjoying what you're seeing or what you're hearing, please subscribe to my YouTube channel and give me a like and leave me a comment of how I'm doing. And from here, I just have to say, may God bless you. Have a wonderful day, and I will see you next time as we continue reading in Chapter 1 of Margie and the Wild